Hello, everyone. On Monday, Kutasha gave a presentation on sustainability, especially on what sustainability means for us. I have one of her slides in my hand. She says, sustainability is supporting the well-being of all of us. And that is certainly true today, especially in our own community, which is often affected by hurricanes and other natural disasters. So for my presentation, I'm going to discuss my mission and my project on making our community, Quinnipiac Island, more sustainable and resilient to such disasters and events. So what is resiliency? Well, resiliency, as it says here, is the ability of a system to absorb disturbances and retain basic function and structure. So resilience for Rhode Island, or what I'm trying to improve, is let's say a disaster strikes Newport, let's say a hurricane strikes Newport, or Quinnipiac Island in general, and the power goes out, or cell towers go down. That really hinders the ability for governments and citizens to respond to natural disasters and to respond and tell the government what their needs are. So let's say there's someone that's injured or someone that's having a heart attack and the cell towers are down. That's a problem. Let's say there's a car crash, or let's say there are trees that are obstructing a road. Well, in that case, that really poses a threat to the safety of the citizens. So my goal is to strengthen our community's ability to respond to such disasters by improving communications between citizens and the government. So a few years ago, a massive hurricane, Hurricane Maria, struck Puerto Rico, and that really left much of the island without power and without cell service. As you can see here, in the orange and the yellow, most of the island was completely without cell service and power. And the picture to the right, you can see there are some people that are trying to get some cell service. They think that standing on their car, they'll get some cell service. Well, they're mistaken. They never got any. And because of the lack of communications there, many, many thousands of deaths occurred. So a part of the response to Hurricane Maria and the effects that it left on Puerto Rico was first responders brought new mesh technology to Puerto Rico to help respond and recover when power is out and when cell towers are down. So what is mesh and what is mesh networking? Mesh networking helps communities respond and plan for disasters. It's very low cost, the technology that it uses. The technology is very line of sight, which means that it's best to have it on tall buildings. It's very resilient. It doesn't require AC power. You just have to, it can be powered through solar panels, and it can be connected to batteries. And really, it helps the community respond to disasters, just like it did in Puerto Rico. It saved many lives in Puerto Rico by communicating the people's needs to the government and to FEMA, and they responded. So for my Eagle Scout project, since I'm a Boy Scout, I decided to work with the town of Portsmouth and the city of Providence to help them respond to disasters and help them become better prepared and help them respond to natural disasters. As you can see here, this is not only an antenna, but it's also a computer that helps expand this network that really helps the community be safe during disasters. And also, these are solar powered. So let's say all the power lines go out. Let's say all the power's down, the grid's down. Batteries help power this thing, and it can run off battery for many, many days. So mesh is a self-healing network. As you can see here, all these devices are talking to one another. This computer's talking to this computer. They're all talking to one another. Usually on normal Wi-Fi, you have a phone that's connected to an access point or a router. You take that router down, well, you pretty much lose your ability to communicate. So the difference between normal networking and mesh is that mesh networking, all of the computers and the devices are talking to one another. So if one device goes down, all the others are still able to communicate. So there's no choke point. It's self-discovering, it configures itself, and it's self-healing. It's always talking to one another. So all the surrounding device it talks to. So what are some of the functions that mesh networking provides for our community? Well, it pretty much provides a small local intranet. The difference between internet and intranet, intranet is kept within. It doesn't really connect to the outside world. It is a small network that's private. So some of the uses include text messaging, file sharing, cameras. So here's some more pictures of my project. I managed a team of guys and adults to help install and implement this technology on a really tall tower in Portsmouth and in Providence. As you can see from this graph, there's a red line that shows the correct path and azimuth between the two nodes, the locations. So you can see here that Providence and Portsmouth are now linked. So if there's ever an event that destroys communications between Portsmouth and Providence, Portsmouth has the ability to communicate to Providence, and then from Providence, it completes the mesh network by communicating to Cranston, which houses the Rhode Island Emergency Management Headquarters. So again, here's some pictures. It's very low-cost equipment. There's a very directional antenna. That's what the U device does. There I am helping solder some equipment together, the power supply. And since I was too young, I couldn't climb the tower because of OSHA rules, and restrictions and regulations. So I had to get adults to climb the tower for me. And these guys were really helpful, and they mounted the antennas up. And so, I really try to focus on locations across Aquinic Island that are extremely useful, that will really help this project, especially during times of disaster. So Portsmouth High School is a town shelter. So if there's ever an emergency or hurricane and it knocks down your house, let's say something destroys your house or destroys the heat, well, Portsmouth High School can be activated as a shelter. So people who are without homes can go, stay warm, get water, and have shelter. Similarly, Gaudet Middle School in Middletown, that is a Red Cross regional shelter. That has a much higher capacity. And Gaudet Middle School really houses a lot of people during these really, really catastrophic times. So I decided to organize a team of guys to test the signal strength from these locations, because these are probably some of the more important locations that will be focused on during disasters. So where is my project headed? Well, as you can see here, all these purple antennas, this is kind of an outdated photo, but all these little purple antennas across Rhode Island represent nodes, and Massachusetts, or devices that pretty much make up the network. As you can see, between the mainland, as I call it, and Aquinic Island, so Providence and Aquinic Island, there was pretty much no link between the two locations. So all the network on Aquinic Island wasn't really able to communicate with the network in Cranston, Providence, Warwick, as you can see here. But my project linked the two. So now, if there's ever a disaster in Portsmouth or in Aquinic Island, Providence will be able to receive that message, and so will the headquarters in Cranston. So where am I headed now? I'm trying to increase the density of the network. I'm trying to get more nodes so I can make it more resilient. So the more devices there are, the more resilient it is, because if one goes down, it's still able to communicate. And this is the last slide. Mesh networking at the neighborhood level. People use this a lot for text. Let's say you're in a very mountainous region and there are no cell towers and you still want to be able to use text. Well, these are very commercial devices that can be purchased that allows for text and other secure encryption and other forms of communication. So this is what we could do at a network level. We could have all these nodes talking to one another, and that could eventually link back to a headquarters or a state. And so yeah, that was my project, and that's where it's headed.